Sports Take, episode 57, Unmuzzled Sports Talk, focusing on the business of sports. A lot of things you hear about and a lot that you also do not. Of course, we are live here on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Give this video a like, give it a share, give it a subscription, rate us if you are listening on Apple Podcasts. And again, just a nice little, couple sentences about how awesome we are would be fantastic. Of course, I'm Ryan Roberts here, Rise and Drift on Twitter, joined by the great, the famous, the best evaluator that has ever walked this face of the earth. Of course, 18-year scouting vet across the NFL, CFL, including 3 straight Arena League championships, and now DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports expert, David Turner. David, how are you, my friend?
Oh, you know what? You are hilarious with leading with that. I mean, it is not expert level at all. I got my ass handed to me this weekend in DFS. I did well with my parlay bets. I mean, sports books open here in Arizona, so now we can bet and do things. I did well. I picked. I was 2 out of my 3 picks this weekend with parlays and everything, taking home some good money there, but when it came to my DFS, I think I won $15 and I had bet $53. So I definitely came out a loser on that end. I learned a lot, had some hard lessons. Obviously the 1-game parlay last week on Thursday night, I did well. 1-game type thing, I did okay. I learned a little lesson there, but this weekend, wow, between my college picks that I did consult somebody else on this team about. But we did not do well on those, and then go to the Sunday game where I was feeling excited about some stuff. As soon as Mostert got hurt for the Niners and the Jacksonville Jaguars decided not to run the ball, I mean, it was just a shit show for me on my end.
Well, I don't want to go too hard on you, man, because you're fresh in the game of DFS. So I'll let you give you a pass here for a second. I got to tell the folks here about the show that we have for you today. We're going to have 2 fantastic guests on this week. We are deep in the college football season. So I wanted to bring on Teddy Gallagher, star linebacker for Coastal Carolina, 2019 and 2020 all Sun Belt linebacker, one of the leaders of this fantastic team and this fantastic defense that Coastal has. It just beat Kansas, who is not a good football team, but hey, they're a Big 12 team, and as a Power 5 team, they have now lost to Coastal Carolina back-to-back years. So I want to bring on Teddy, of course. Everybody knows the great mullet, the blonde mullet that we're going to get on the set tonight. So we'll have him on in a few minutes. Also going to welcome Tony Racioppi, who's a quarterback coach, does NFL prep work for Test Football Academy, also a high school coach here in New Jersey. He played his college ball at Rowan. Now he works with some fantastic players on the high school level, on the college level, of course, which we're going to talk about, including Anthony Brown, quarterback out of Oregon, Kenny Pickett, quarterback for Pittsburgh, and Spencer Petras, quarterback from Iowa. All had fantastic weeks this past week and had some incredible wins for their program. We're going to really tone in on that, on Tony, as well as the art of just coaching the quarterback position. Obviously, it's the most intense and attentive coaching that you could possibly do, and most important position in all of sports. So we got coaching side, we got the player side, we got some great performance from this past week. Before we get heavy into that, though, would you be a parent of a high school athlete trying to make it to the next level? If you answered yes, then why not secure coaching from an expert? Here at Maverick Sports Consulting, we work with high school athletes of all sports to create strategies for their recruiting process. With limited scholarship given each year, having a pointed recruiting plan helps our clients secure their opportunity to play collegiate sports. We focus on your transcripts, your film, leadership, and more to set your goals and create pathways to get to them. Whether you're looking to attend an SEC school or Slippery Rock, we can support your efforts to get to those goals for 2022. Contact us at Maverick Sports Consulting today. So, David, DFS obviously didn't treat you too well this week, but there's some hot topics, as always is, man. College football is, like I said, we're going into week 3 of college football. We're going to head into week 2 of NFL. Obviously, the big news that came out yesterday, recording here on a Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern time, of course, is our starting point every single week because West Coast time does not exist. But we have,
this.
but speaking of West Coast, great segue. What a fantastic segue. USC, University of Southern California, let's go of their coach, Clay Helton. And David started telling me about his great record as USC's head coach. Well, I'm here to tell you, Clay Helton was holding on by a string there for the last few seasons, to say the least. Let go after just 2 football games following a loss here in week 2. David, just the overall scope of this firing, just opinions on it. Let's get the talking piece. And because I know there's a lot of layers to this firing. The timing, I think, is the big thing that we want to hone in on here.
Yeah, I think, we're looking at week 2. It's not like they lost to Holy Cross here. They lost to Stanford, a respectable program. And, that was some UConn slander thrown in Holy Cross like that, man. That was UConn slander. Well, I love UConn football. Don't get me wrong. UConn football, if you're listening, I will come right now. Make me your recruiting director. I love it up there. I think it's a beautiful campus. It's a beautiful place. I would come help that program out. I think it's an incredible opportunity. Whoever takes the UConn job really needs to understand the gem it is up there, because it is a beautiful campus, and you can dive into recruiting and really snatch some players up there. But that all being said, they did lose to Holy Cross, and the guy was able to retain his job. Now, he's a leaving legend up there. I mean, he's done some great things, so I understand why. But
Coach
again,
Edsel, man. Yay. Hey, Randy Edsel, the peak
Coach
of
Edsel,
UConn
I've
football.
met him on many occasions. Him and I have had some great conversations. But at the end of the day, you lost to Holy Cross, and you kept your job. Now, the SC coach loses to Stanford. I mean, Stanford's a reputable freaking program, and he loses his job after week 1. Like, I don't get that at all, being quite frank. I just don't get it at all. And, for me, I'm like, okay, cool. You're going to do that, but he's 46-24. Like, the guy hasn't been routed out of, like, games time and time again. He's been able to, like, last year it was rumored he was going to get fired. He worked himself back into the job. And, here we go again. We're 2 games in, and he loses to Stanford, and he's on the street looking for work. It just doesn't make sense. I think there's another reason, whatever the reason is. There's rumors out there, a lot of them we can get into if you want, Ryan, but there's other rumors out there of like who's going to be coming into SC, and I just don't see, as a business decision, businessmen making this kind of decision without there being a plan already in place.
Well, David, what type of show is this? What's the first thing I said? We are a blank sports show.
We are the business of sports show.
That's not the word I was looking for. I was looking for the word unmuzzled. Okay,
yeah,
so we're going unmuzzled here. I'm going to be honest, and I know this is going to, you're going to cite your little record there to rebuttal here. Clay Helton's been on the hot seat for multiple years, man. Like, this is not an out of nowhere situation where Clay Helton, oh, wow, Clay Helton's job security, and then he has a bad loss to Stanford, which, yes, is a reputable program for the most part, but they have been down also the last couple years. They have not been the same Stanford that they were ladder of Andrew Luck going into David Shaw's tenure and through the bulk of the early to mid sections of David Shaw's tenure. So they lose, and I actually look worse. I actually look down upon USC on it a little bit more than I do of Clay Helton, because I think that Clay Helton this was inevitable. It was going to happen. He has lost too many big games with a lot of talent. Like, I have combed this roster in the preseason for NFL talent, and I'm here to tell you, man, draftable players at quarterback, at least one at running back, wide receiver, they have at least one in this year's draft. They have an offensive tackle that's a draftable player. Defensively, they have a safety. They have guys on all levels of the defense that are draftable football players, and yet they still are not very good. They are not. And I am very confused at why. I know you're saying, oh, they must have something in the plans. I am looking forward, and I'm going to keep an open mind as far as what that plan is. But going into a season where the leash was so short that you were like, hey, 2 games in, that's it. I don't want to say it's a mistake, because I don't think that Clay Helton's the best man for the job long term, but I think that you don't have any foresight with the situation. Were you really comfortable. I feel like there was no comfort going into the season. I honestly don't understand the timing. I don't understand what USC's long game was. Like, I don't get it. What's the aiming point here? Are they actually going to try to lure Urban Meyer away from Jacksonville? Like, I don't understand what the long game is here, David. I really don't for USC.
Yeah, and again, that's the rumor that was going around that they're gonna try to get Urban away from USC bring Urban to USC from Jacksonville, because last year a lot of the rumor was that he wanted the Texas job until he was asking $10 million a year, and then Sark came in and was like, I'll do it for 6 or whatever he got, and they had money still paid out to their former coach, so they're like, yeah, that helps us out, we'll do that instead. So then, he went back to the ranks of the NFL, which again, we already heard him make a error saying that, vaccine status mattered in cuts this year. And it's like, Urban, you can't say that. And I'm, there's rumors out of the down there in Jacksonville that he's not happy with the pro style scheme of things. So you got to be a little careful with what
I think he's just mad that he can't scheme, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah.
Well, again, we all agree that he's not. I never thought he'd be a good pro coach. If you go back and listen to our shows back then, I said he wasn't going to go there. He wants Texas, and again, I truly believe he still wants Texas. It was just a situation where he outpriced himself in the market. But by going to Jacksonville and earning $10 million like he got, and he got a long contract, it now sets the bar. If an SC wants to come get him, they have to buy him out of that contract as well as commit to the $10 million that he's looking for. So that all being said, it's like his bar got set high by going to Jacksonville, and people know that, this is what the deal is. You got to go get him if you want him, and you got to pay the price to get him. So for me, I'm like, okay, I can see this happening, because it was kind of like, what was the Arkansas coach? The Suey boy,
Petrino.
Petrino. Yeah, he went to Atlanta, couldn't handle the pro game. The players were making more money than him. He couldn't be the big man on campus type thing. People weren't bowing down to him, so the ego was hurt. So now what happens? You run back to college where you're our god, and that's what he's looking for.
You remember when Petrino left and he wrote them all like a note? Like, he didn't even say bye to them in person. He just wrote them a note, dude.
Dude, I definitely remember that day, because I was working at the Raiders, and when that rumor hit, I mean, there were people in our office just like, what the F? They could not figure that out at all. Like,
I don't know how you can claim to be a leader of men and then leave them with just a note and not at least face them. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. But we want to move on, and we're talking about a lot of job security. Tell you who does have a lot of job security, David. Mr. Jamie Chadwell, the head coach for Coastal Carolina. Want to bring on one of his football players. Mr. Teddy Gallagher now joins the show. Of course, two-time all-conference linebacker, heart and soul of this fantastic Coastal Carolina defense. Teddy, how you doing, man? Appreciate you hopping on.
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, great, man. We really appreciate you hopping on. A lot of fun things we want to talk to you about, and obviously a lot of what you guys have just been doing over the last couple years. So people, if they want to go back even before the magical 2020 season, you were a stalwart on that defense. You have been a very productive football player over the last few years, but I want to take us to that 2020 campaign. Of course, the undefeated regular season, upset over BYU in the kind of that makeshift, real quick turnaround game. Fantastic season with a lot of now NFL prospects. We saw Teron Jackson and CJ Marable kind of move to the NFL last year. We had a lot more guys coming this year. Take us through, Teddy, going through the 2020 season specifically, navigating the madness and having the greatest season in Coastal Carolina history.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Last season was, and this season's also been really fun so far. And it was just it all came to just like the guys believing on the team, because like we had the pieces in 2019. I think we had some key injuries and we lost a lot of really close games. And so in 2019 we were 5-7, but we felt like we were a lot better than what our record showed. And then we knew like we had to fix the little things in the offseason. That's what we did. We harped on all the details, and we watched it come to fruition in the 2020 season, and game after game after game after game, like you know, we felt like, you know, the target's growing on our backs and like, you know, people still not believing in us. And it went all the way through, you know, the end of the season. And then, you know, now they're saying we were a one year fluke and stuff like that. So like we still hear it today, but I mean, it was just, it's a lot of fun to go through adversity with people you love. And that, you know, that's what we did last season. That's what we're doing this season too.
And Teddy, can you talk to me a little bit about the perspective of working through, you know, going back to not this past spring, the one before, going into the fall, where like, hey, COVID-19, are we going to have a season? What's the schedule going to look like? When you kind of throw that layer into it, not only just, you know, obviously the magical season, but also kind of navigating COVID-19 and just on a weekly basis and protocols. How special is it when you really kind of just take a step back and consider all the things you guys had to go through outside of, you know, the 2019 with injuries and trying to prove people wrong, also navigating a global pandemic? It was just, I know, a crazy story to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, during going through summer workouts before the 2020 season, we had no idea if we were going to play or not. Like we were working out every day, practicing every day, and had no idea if we were going to play a season. Like we made that video, like a lot of teams did, like that we want to play video. Like we made that, and, you know, we were just, it kind of made us grateful every day to practice and every week to play a football game. Cause, you know, like we just realized like how fast can be taken away from us. And, you know, it was definitely nerve wracking every week, you know, the way like every week when we had testing, we like, you know, you had no idea what was going to happen with that, you know, but we did a really good job with, you know, keeping our little bubble. And, you know, we until the very end of the season, we did very well with like the COVID testing and stuff like that.
Now that we're back into like a more normal flow in 2021, right? What's it been like around campus, around other students, the program, other sports, you know, coming into the building? Tell us like how's the normalization happened there in Coastal Carolina on campus?
Yeah, you know, I would say definitely we have more support this year for the football team, obviously, than we had in years past, you know, when we were like 5-7 or stuff like that. And, you know, it's been great to, you know, we've had pretty good crowds at our first two games. And, you know, we're expecting, we go up to Buffalo this weekend. They say it might be a sellout up there. And, you know, that's always awesome to play in front of fans and stuff like that. But, you know, on campus and stuff like that, we definitely like see the support more than in years past, and, you know, that's been really cool.
Now, when Teddy, you say more support than years past, like, I mean, seriously, you guys had a magical season. I mean, you beat BYU. We say that a lot, but, you know, I think you have even a clothing line talking about mullets versus Mormons and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, it was a rallying point, that victory for the program. And now you've beat Kansas 2 years in a row, right? 2 times in a row. A big, you know, Kansas is not a most dominant, you know, team, but again, it's a bigger, what's seen as a bigger competition, bigger level of competition team. And you guys got momentum. You guys got a lot of savvy going. Like, talk about how the community is embracing you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of started towards the end of the year last year. Like when we had our run, and people called us like America's team and stuff like that. And, you know, it was like we had limited capacity at the BYU game. It was like 5,000, but I think it ended up getting to like 8 or 9 with like people sneaking in, like jumping fences and stuff like that. And you know, that was a really fun environment. But, you know, the community itself, like when more so than ever, like driving by, and, you know, they have those little like caution signs on the road. They'll say like "Go Chants," and like all the stores, like some of the stores like around campus, they'll say like, you know, game this weekend, and say like who we're playing and stuff like that, like their little billboards and stuff like that. And, you know, it's been really cool to see.
Yeah, and Teddy, I really am jealous, man, because every time I talk to a Coastal guy, they always, you know, I always ask them about the campus, and they just start talking about Myrtle Beach and all the cool things you guys got going down there. So I really want to get down there, and I really wanted to talk to you a little bit because David mentioned already, you know, I noticed, I looked into your online store where you had, you know, the shirts obviously with the mullet and everything like that. You got kind of your brand working, which is obviously part of the name, image, likeness movements that we are seeing, the opportunities that are presented. So can you just comment on, if you can, just the changing landscape, how important it is for college athletes to have the ability to, you know, brand themselves and have the ability to sell their brand, And how have you taken personally advantage of some of those opportunities with NIL?
Yeah, I think it's important in two different ways. Like one, players should be able to use their, image and likeness to, in ways that other people have profited off of them. They should be able to profit off themselves. But it's also important to, not make a whole lot of things about yourself. Like you're still a member of the team, and no one's in the NFL yet and playing college football. So it's kind of you got to be for the team, and we've kind of made a focus on a lot of guys on the team have done like NIL deals, but like we're still, before anything, I'm a Coastal Carolina football player. I'm not putting Teddy Gallagher above Coastal Carolina football. And so, with the shirts and stuff, it was like, people made shirts like last year that had pictures of my face on them. And then I had to go in the store and buy those shirts with like money. And like, I couldn't even get the shirts for free, and they're making money off of using my face on a shirt. And so like, it's nice to be able to like see a little bit of that, and, be able to like have input on stuff like that. And, but other than that, I mean, your play on the field dictates that. And, if you don't perform on the field, you're not going to get any NIL deals. And, football is way more important than NIL to me.
It's gotta be cool though, man, walking into a store and seeing your face though. That's gotta be pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But when I had to spend like $25 on a shirt with my face on it, I was kind of, come on.
I'm sure your mom would have made one for you for free. I mean, moms are good for that kind of thing. But Ryan and I, you don't want to see we have faces for radio, even though they let us do video. They don't want to see our faces on anything. Now, what are the expectations for the team this year going forward, as far as the bowl games, championships? Like, what's the goals? Whatever you say, you talk about being a Coastal Carolina player, and that comes first. So, what are the goals for the team, and then take us to the goals for you?
I would say my biggest goal for the season is to win another Sun Belt championship. That's the number one goal on my mind, and I think on our team. Well, our team is we're trying to win every week. We're trying to go 1-0 every week and get better every week. But, the overarching goal that I had before the season that I wrote down was win a Sun Belt championship. And that's the most important thing. I don't really care too much about, I think my dad cares more about when, ESPN jobs me out of a couple tackles. He's like, you had 11, they only gave you 8. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, we won the football game. And, I'm just trying to win every week. And, definitely the biggest goal is to win a Sun Belt championship.
I love it. And Teddy, the last kind of question we really want to throw at you, we really appreciate all the time that you've been able to give us, is I want to talk about that senior class. I've had the privilege of talking to a bunch of them, from DeJordan Strong and CJ Brewer and Jeffrey Gunter, and you have Isaiah Likely, Silas Kelly, I know, who you mentioned, the injury obviously in 2019, obviously has been a big football player for your team. Talk to me a little bit about this senior class, how special it is, and ultimately the legacy that this class is going to leave for Coastal moving forward.
Yeah, I love every single one of those guys. I've been here since I've been at Coastal since 2018, been here for 4 years, but those guys have been here since like 2016. And when I first got here, they were already the leaders on the team. Those guys were, and it's been 3 or 4 years since then. And I just have seen all of them grow, like on the field and off the field. And, it's definitely a special team when a lot of times the coaches don't have to correct mistakes, like off the field mistakes, and, guys not doing the right things, and they're it's everything's led on the field. And I'm a leader on the team. We have a bunch of good leaders on the team, and it's definitely been special. And all of them are obviously great players, and I just have loved every second I've been here, and I love all those guys to death.
Well, really quick, one thing: if you guys need any help with NIL stuff, or you want any help as a team, just let us know here at Mavericks, because it's something we are offering athletes to help them and their organizations or teams, their teammates. We can have that conversation off air and see if we can help the whole organization, the whole campus, take home a few dollars in their pocket for the success and the legacy you guys are leaving behind.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, Teddy, I want to give you a second, man. I really appreciate the time. Again, if there's any social media handles, or you want to shout out the store, obviously, to get some merchandise, like whatever you want, what would you like to leave the listeners with?
Go Shants. Tune in. ESPN2 noon Saturday. Let's go.
Love it, man.
I love
Thanks,
it.
Teddy.
Let's go.
Appreciate it,
Let's
brother.
go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, man. We got Teddy Gallagher. I didn't even ask about the mullet, man. I forgot to ask.
Dude, I'm so glad you didn't, because I got hair envy with that guy. Like, it's flowing out the back of his helmet. He's looking like old school Brian Bosworth. You know what I mean? It's just like, and then here I am with my shaved head, old man beard, and this guy's got young man game all over it. So I was kind of happy we didn't talk about him real, and he was in a dark car or wherever he was, because I was in picturing seeing this flowing hair, this Fabio Mole all night with this interview, and I didn't have to sit through that. That was a good thing.
You're lucky he didn't have like the circle light right around his head to just illuminate it.
Just illuminate it and have a fan blowing where it was just stunning. It was just stunning and flowing. I would have just been like, you know what? You guys go ahead. I'm going to walk over here for this interview. I'm done.
Right. Well, we have another interview that we have to get to, so please don't leave yet, Mr. David Turner. Before we do, have you secured any sponsorships with your name, image, and likeness yet? No? What's keeping you from earning money or gaining products today? Probably access to companies. Maverick Sports Consulting can connect those dots for you. We believe in the power of athletes making a living off their own likeness while going to college. If it's simple that you don't have access to companies, don't let that keep you from being successful. Contact us at Maverick Sports Consulting so we can help you navigate your path to gaining corporate sponsorships for your collegiate career. An athlete's earning potential is unlimited. Why wait until tomorrow to start earning today? It doesn't matter what sport you play. We help all our clients achieve their goals. Just contact at Maverick Sports Consulting. TikTok, the clock is ticking. All right, David. So we have one more fantastic interview. A guy that I actually reached out to, I think like a year ago, to try to get an interview with. We weren't able to obviously connect, but we got Tony Racioppi coming on with us now. Renowned quarterback coach, NFL prep, works with the Test Football Academy, also a high school football coach, former Rowan alum as well, which I am also a Rowan alum. So shout out to Rowan University. Tony, appreciate you coming on, man. How's it going?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Thanks, David. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, we won't hold that Rowan connection against you at all.
Hey, all I'll say, man, is I was looking up Tony earlier today, and I saw all the great, wonderful records that he has still for Rowan University. I think it was like 7 touchdowns in one game, Tony. Is that right?
Yeah, there were some good days back then. So, I always tell people, like when I played, it was just right when the spread offense kind of came out, and no one knew how to defend it. So, had some pretty good guys around me, and obviously at that time, offenses practiced no huddle, defenses didn't. So it was a lot easier back then.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much the game's obviously evolved, as we all know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we want to talk a little bit about the evolution specifically of the quarterback position. I want to start you out, though. We talked obviously about your career a little bit at Rowan. I know you played a little professionally. Talk to me a little bit about how you got into the coaching side of everything and how specifically private coaching for quarterbacks.
So when I finished playing, didn't really know what I want to do. From the time I was little, I really wanted to be a college or an NFL coach. So I finished playing. I jumped on Temple University staff with Al Golden as a GA on his offensive staff. George DeLeon was the offensive coordinator. And after about 4 or 5 months, I found out what being a GA at Division I level is all about. So, a lot of my mentors in my life and people that were close to me were my teachers and coaches. I grew up in Ocean Township in Red Bank down in Monmouth County. So I was a beach kid, and a lot of those guys were teachers and coaches during the year, and they worked at the beaches in the summer, and everybody just seemed really happy, for the most part. So I left, and I really was a high school coach, for a while, teaching phys ed. I was your football, basketball, baseball guy. I played all 3 in high school, and really never did the training stuff per se for a while. I probably taught 10 years just in coaching those 3. Kind of going all in with the time you put into those 3. And then really once I came up to Franklin High School, which is up by Rutgers, and I was teaching there and kind of started doing some stuff on Sundays with a guy that ran kind of like an academy kind of thing. And, I had, 8 to 10 quarterbacks a Sunday, and I really just fell in love with it. And it got to the point where people just started asking me, hey, can you work with my kid? Can you work with my kid? And then, obviously, as I grew up in the state, and I grew up in Monmouth County, and I played in South Jersey. I lived in North Jersey. So there's a lot of high school coaches that I know, so it turned into like, hey, do you think you can coach my kid in the off season? Because obviously in New Jersey, you can't coach the kids year round. So that's how it kind of started, And
It
then,
looked like Stallone in 4, coaching them, going through the snow. Okay,
yes.
you got to take a tighter drop.
Yes. Well, in Jersey, we're going to have that at times, right? So
That's what I'm saying. Down here in Arizona, you could go year round. You're fine.
Yes. Definitely a different animal out here, Dave. Trust me. So, but that's how I kind of started things, So it kind of started on like those Sundays doing that kind of stuff. It was kind of funny. Anthony Brown from Oregon was in that original group that I kind of had. I had him. I had Dwayne Haskins. I mean, I had some really good kids in this group. And then it kind of evolved to doing really not just high school kids. I started doing actually the NFL draft stuff first because that was only the time I had 4. I only had like 6 or 7 high school kids I'd work with in a year. And then I was kind of doing the draft stuff. And then it got to the point where you had so many high school kids that wanted to come. And then all of a sudden those kids turned into college kids.
Yeah.
So they would come home in their pockets that you have them, whether it was, after the season in the winter and January, and then you have them like, before spring practice, like a tune up, and then, summertime when they have a little break, so you had them 3 or 4 times per year, which I loved. And that was, the fun thing for me is that, it's such a different, like you have high school kids, you're teaching the foundation, right? You're developing that. Then you have the college guys in that kind of world. It's kind of weird because they're not your quarterbacks.
Right.
They're someone else's quarterbacks. You're just trying to kind of help out, navigate, but they might play for a guy that has 180 from a philosophy standpoint as you. And you kind of have to live in their world because they don't play for me.
Right.
It's my job to get them ready for him, and then the NFL world's kind of, it's really focusing on you, which is a lot of fun. Like, for me, the draft stuff is awesome because I get these really good players for 6 to 8 to 10 weeks and I can make them my quarterbacks, and they're around me all week, so that's kind of, I kind of jumped into it. I interned 3 times in the NFL, twice with the Jaguars on their offensive staff when Gus Bradley was there. And then a couple years ago with the Arizona Cardinals as well. Carson Palmer's last year as quarterback. So, it was kind of great for me because I could go in and kind of just sit there and just be a sponge and take notes and kind of see what those guys are teaching their quarterbacks. And I could take it back and obviously get guys ready to go do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I hope you're not. I hope you're not doing the three season sports anymore because I did that for a little while, man. I went from football right into winter track, right into outdoor track, and it was a grind for a couple years.
Still do it on top of all the stuff.
Wow.
So I switched over to track in the winter and the spring.
Okay.
So from a time standpoint, it's helped me because again I couldn't do basketball and baseball anymore with the time, especially the training stuff. But I still coach in the fall at the Hunt School in Princeton. We're one of the top prep schools in the country. We've had 67 Division I kids in 8 years, so it's we're churning them out pretty good here. So so it's that keeps me busy in the fall, and that kind of gets your competitive juices going. I don't know if I could train year round like some guys do. I love coaching too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting, and I want to talk to you about the coaching, especially this quarterback position, because I'm an old school. I might look young and handsome, but I'm not. So I'm old school. I came in, I started in the NFL in 2002, right? Where quarterbacks were pocket passers. They were big. They were, not mobile. This spread crap hadn't taken over the world yet. Right. So talk to me about playing quarterback, coaching quarterback, and the transition that this position is morphing into in your eyes. Like, I'm a scout, you're a coach.
Yes.
So I think it'd be really cool to hear from a coach how one of the main, besides a pitcher in baseball, this is it, right? The quarterback's the spot.
Yes.
How that's changed, a little history lesson, but then also where you see it going, because there's a lot of different, like you alluded to, there's different spreads, there's different coaching, there's different systems inside the spread now. It used to be one thing. Now it's like conglomerate of a whole bunch of stuff.
Great question. And I'll lead with this. So I work the Manning camp every summer, right? So I'm one of the main guys there. So there's about 4 guys they let work with the college kids on the field in between the high school sessions, because those guys are there really to coach the high school kids. And the cool thing about it was, I would say about 10 years ago, everybody was, like you said, David, everybody was 6'3" to 6'6", 215 to 235.
Oh yeah, you're talking
big,
my language.
strong,
Let's go. Yes.
7-step drop, right? Comebacks, digs,
hitch. Let's go.
Yes, like the big boy throws. And then now, I would say not so much. I mean, this year, but maybe about 2 years ago, we didn't have it last year, but the year because of COVID. But the year before, I would say honestly, 3/4 of guys were like 6 foot, 6'1". Mm-hmm. Maybe 5'11", some of them. And you're sitting there going like, oh, that's starting quarterback at so and so school. Like when I was growing up, that guy was 6'4", 220 at that school. the Notre Dames and the Penn States and all those schools that we all know. So it's kind of cool to see the evolution of the position. It's almost kind of turned into, really, because of the spread, you're kind of a shortstop now, right? Shortstop / point guard. Get the ball to your hands quickly, make quick decisions, be accurate with the football, quick feet, arm angles, like all the stuff you're starting to see. It's kind of cross-trained, and I think the coaching's gotten better. When I played, there wasn't guys like me back then. I just went out in the backyard and had a catch. And if I threw it low, I try to figure out a way to get it up. Now it's you have kids that I have 4th, 5th grade parents reach out to me. I'm like, not yet. They're going to guys. They're getting a foundation at an early age that we just didn't have back then. And I think seeing the evolution of the passing game. Be the fact. I mean, it's pretty neat to say that. I'm a 6'1" guy. And in 1997, when I was coming out of high school, I got knocked for that. Right now I'd be golden.
Right.
So
you'd be a high recruit right now.
Yeah, it's neat to see. It's the way it should be. If you're a really good player, they're going to find and fit you in a system that makes you successful. It's almost like back then you almost felt like, okay, here's our system, and we need a guy that fits that. Where nowadays it's kind of like, okay, what does this guy do well? Let's build around that. And I think the really good coaches do that, right? They kind of morph their systems into what guys can do well.
Well, I think we saw a great example of that just this weekend. We'll see if it keeps up. But with Jameis Winston and Sean, right?
Sure.
Sean adapted a lot of the vertical pass game that Jameis can do into his system, where with Drew, it was crossing routes all day long.
Yeah, true West Coast and underneath stuff. And exactly. Spacing stuff. And I agree 100%. So it's neat to see guys get opportunities, 1 and 2. Like I said, the best coaches can kind of morph and kind of slide their system around to, get guys to be successful. I mean, that's what good coaches do at the end of the day, right? So anybody can get a stud and just run it with them. You look at some of the best guys who've had a 5'10" guy, and they could have a 6'4" guy in there and be successful at both.
Yeah. Well, Tony, I know we wanted to really hone in on 3 different guys that obviously had big weekends this past weekend. And it's funny, I didn't even consider it until you started talking about, the size differences. We got guys that are completely different sizes, completely different styles here. Right. I wanted to start out with Spencer Petras, who you talked a little bit about, your traditional. He's 6'5", he's 225, 230 plus pounds. He's a big kid. Obviously, they're fresh off 27-17 victory over Iowa, number 9 team in the country. They're a top 10 team now. They were number 10 heading into the game. I didn't see what the recent AP poll was, but obviously the Hawkeyes looked very good through the first couple games. Can you just take us through a little bit? Because I know Petras started last year in 2020. It was obviously an abbreviated season. We didn't see a ton of them, but now we're going to see him on a full scope. What type of player is this Spencer Petras?
I think the world of him. I got to work with him for 2 long breaks out here. Obviously met him through Nate Stanley, who I had for the draft, the year before. So always talked to Spencer, and kind of through that 2020 season, we kind of just stayed in touch. And then he just said, listen, I'm missing throws, and I'm really frustrated that I'm missing throws. I don't know why I'm missing them. And, I think you gave Nate those answers when he came out to see you, and I want to know those answers. Like, I don't understand why I'm missing certain things I shouldn't miss. So that's how it kind of started. So we came out, we spent a good 9 days out here in Jersey. And I give the kid credit. I mean, he's a San Francisco kid. He could be out in Northern California sitting on a beach somewhere and drinking a good bottle of wine, and instead he chose to come here, and not that Jersey's a bad state, but I'd rather be in San Francisco if I was him. But he came out here and we grinded. He was very open to being coaching, and we were out there for an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and kind of go, listen, you do this really well, and you need to work on this, or else this is what's going to hold you back fundamentally. And he was open to it, and I think he saw right away. Sometimes when you work with guys, you have to earn their trust first, right? You can't jump on them because they're good players at that level. They wouldn't be there, So it's about earning their trust, and just kind of going, listen, try this. Like, you're doing this, just try this. And then once they kind of see success in that, they're going, oh wow, something's here. I never learned this, And I think that's how it kind of worked with him. Is just keeping him more balanced. He was more of a baseball pitcher, like with weight transfer and like load on his back leg going forward. So he was kind of a high-low misser kind of guy. So just kind of keeping him balanced through the throw was, like night and day. He could throw the crap out of the football.
I know.
He's a smart kid, big personality, big vibrant personality. You know, you definitely could tell he's kind of the ringleader in the locker room. You know, he's a very smart kid. I mean, you know, you talk to him, he sounds like an NFL guy. He's, you know, and I think they do a great job at Iowa developing quarterbacks there from a pro style standpoint, right? He understands protections. He can repoint the mic, and he understands coverages, and he can go run the pass to run checks and get in and out of plays and cannon plays. And so he gets to do all that stuff, which is great for him, obviously for the next level. But, you know, big time arm, which you got to be in that weather, right? You know, you're going to play in some bad weather, as we all know, you know, halfway through that season on. So, you know, tough kid. You know, the thing about Spencer is that he had no spring practice, right?
Yeah.
Because things got shut down. I think he had one practice. So no spring practice. You know, call training camp what it was for those kids, right? So, you know, not really from a developmental standpoint. Couldn't work with anybody in the offseason for the most part. And then he just jumped in. He played okay for the first 2 games. They lost both of them to start season. And then he went on a 6-game run and won. And he played better every game, you know, and you kind of saw him develop and get comfortable in the pocket. And, you know, a lot of times, like most guys early on, when they get in, they're kind of jittery and their feet are kind of flying around. And, you know, they look downfield, and if one's covered, they just kind of, their eyes drop down to the rush and they kind of just try to sneak through and get some yards. Where, you know, game 1 is completely different in game 7 and 8. You know, his eyes are downfield and he's sliding the pocket and he's making throws. He's getting hit in the chin and bouncing back up and smiling and all the stuff the good guys to do. So, you know, I think the world of him, to answer your question, Ryan. Yeah, you know, I think that, you know, physically, sky's the limit. Like you said, he's 6'5.5". He's 235, you know, and he wants to be great. Like, he has that in him. Like, you know, the ones I've been around that have been really good, you know, it's an obsession, you know, it's a true love and obsession where it's kind of like on a Friday night at 7:00, you'd rather be on the field throwing routes and working drills, and you're good doing it. Like, you love the fact that you're there.
Well, I think it's a great point too, is when you talk about, you know, everything's shut down and you're trying to figure it out kind of on your own a little bit. I remember I was talking to a bunch of guys going into the season, and, you know, for like a lot of linemen, like defensive linemen, offensive linemen, they're talking about like their makeshift gyms and all that type of stuff. For a quarterback, like, we're talking about the mental side, we're talking about the technical side. Like, lifting weights isn't only going to go so far with a quarterback, you know? And I think that it was – I think of it for the 2022 class, which a lot of people are already talking about the quarterback class. They're like, it's underdeveloped. Well, yes, of course it is. They missed the whole season, basically, right? Yes. So, great point. I love the point so much. I think it was fantastic, Tony. One thing I want to ask, I know you talked about the technical side. So, being a baseball pitcher, I think you may have mentioned something about it. So, is he overstriding a little too much? Is it kind of like that some of the core issue with –
you know, it was a combination of 2 things. On plant throws, a lot of times he would miss low because he would load his weight on his back leg, and then when he would step, he would weight transfer to his front leg, get over his front leg, ball low. Now when he had a hitch or climbed the pocket, like most guys do, their back foot gets too far under their body, which kicks their front leg out. There's your overstride. You know, you sail the ball, usually like second level throws. You know, your curls, your digs, your comebacks, those that, like, you know, 12 to 22 yard window range there, you know, your digs, you know, so, you know, just really fixing those 2 things. I mean, you saw a huge jump in his accuracy. And the cool thing is that, you know, the good ones that I have, you know, when they're here, it's great, right? You fix them up, they feel great, you know, they leave here, and then, you know, they do it on their own. Because at the end of the day, I'm not there anymore, you know, and, you know, the reality of college coaching nowadays is those guys can't work with them in the off season, and in the season, you know, in Indy in practice, you're, you know, 7 to 10 minutes. You're not going crazy with fundamental drills. You're just kind of getting guys loosened up, you know, and all of a sudden you're in 2-minute offense, or you're putting stuff in, you're walking through a new play that week, you know, so you have to really coach yourself, to tell you the truth, from a fundamental standpoint. So, a lot of times when guys leave here, I try to almost go, okay, here's the formula, right? You do this really well. You need to stay on top of, you know, A through whatever with a guy, and they have to do it on their own, you know, and the good ones do. And I know he's worked on it, and a lot of times they'll video themselves and send it back to me so I can kind of look at it, and you know, it's the off season. So, hey, be honest. Like, if you're not doing it well, if you're not throwing well, tell me. It's not, you know, I'm not your head coach. I'm not going to bench you, you know, like, let me know, you know, like, let's figure something out here, you know, because when it's go time, it's go time. You know, when the game starts, you know, on 3rd and 10 against Ohio State, you're not thinking about your front shoulder or your weight transfer, you know, like, it's right. You know, it's the muscle memory stuff. It has to be done now.
Do you find that one of the biggest things you're correcting with these young quarterbacks is the footwork?
Oh, huge. Yeah. Like I've always said, there's four things that I could fix on a guy, usually right away. It's usually just how they throw the ball from a base, from a standing still standpoint. The second thing is how they get balanced kind of at the top of their drops, whatever system they're in, how they get control of their body. The third thing is how they throw to their non-dominant side, righty throwing to the left, lefty throwing to the right. And then the fourth thing is just how they hitch or they reset in the pocket. They're reading covers, they reset their feet, and they're throwing the ball, to a second, third level kind of throw. So usually within those four things, I can really show guys because, the thing about the position is, in the coaching has really evolved, and it's gotten so much better with the details of the position. So it's funny because, when you coach, you just teach stuff you knew, right? I mean, that's what we all do, right? You just what you were taught in high school or college, you just that's all I know. And I think when you become a really good coach, you kind of take a step back and go, okay, what's the why behind all this, right? Am I just saying this because my high school coach told me this and my college coach told me this, and it sounds good? And then, when I got really good at this stuff is when I kind of took a step back and went, okay, the stuff I'm telling the guy to do, does that make sense? And sometimes, so again, for instance, from the time, I don't know, I learned how to throw. It was always, you're like a baseball pitcher, right? It's always load on your back leg and drive to a throw. And you're sitting there going why am I always throwing the ball low? And then you take a step back and you go, okay, well, there's a better way of doing this. What's a more efficient way to teach guys to be consistent? So yeah, to answer your question, David, footwork's huge. I mean, it's the problem that you run into sometimes is that you might have a kid who plays for a guy who's been around a long time and they've done it a certain way, and they've just been lucky to have some really good players in their career from a resume standpoint, and they kind of rely on the fact that they have really good players. And
oh yeah, I know those. I've worked with some of those guys.
And that's, it's tough for guys like me because you got to respect their coach because that's their coach. And obviously you want to work with them, in the future. You don't want to be a one-time thing.
Sure.
And, you have to be respectful, but at the same time, it's that's the reason you're missing is because kind of what you're being told to do.
Right. No, absolutely.
So I live in that world.
I've been there. I know that as a scout, one of my biggest pet peeves for every position is footwork. And I'm with you. They don't have enough time in college or even in high school rules these days to work on the fundamentals, which causes a lot of these kids to miss. Yes. And that's why the independent developmental coaches like yourself that can come in and correct that fundamental stuff. Like, everything you described, if a good coach had the extra time with them that could do it and work with them, you might be out of a job. But there's so many rules now that in the pros, college, and even high school, you can't coach these kids. It creates that gap for you to come in and fix them. And, I want to move on, obviously, to one of your other quarterbacks here, Pitt quarterback, Kenny Pickett. He's gotten a lot of notoriety over the last couple seasons. They coming off a victory over Tennessee, 41-34, and this past weekend, including a 285-yard passing and 3 total touchdowns, right? I mean, what's your favorite attributes about what he possesses, and how much has he improved? You've really seen him up close and personal.
So to answer your question, there's not enough attributes that I can give him. Like he's, I've told scouts and I've told, agents that have reached out to me about him. I mean, there's no reason he can't be QB 1 through 3 in this draft. Like that's how good he is. He's gotten better every year. He was a kid. So just so you know, a little background behind us, his mom actually was my next door neighbor growing up.
Oh, wow.
That's how long I've known his family. So I started working with him when he was 7 years old, something like that. We were doing like fitness.
Oh, so he was one of the 4th and 5th graders you took on.
He was, way back when. And I didn't see him in high school because I was coaching.
Gotcha.
I followed him, but didn't work with them all. And then we got back together when he got to Pitt. And then we've been, as many times as we humanly can throughout his entire career at Pittsburgh, and it's amazing to see. Kenny was 5'7" when he was in high school, his freshman sophomore year. He was like this little shrimp that kind of rocketed over an arm.
And he still got me beat by 3 inches at 5'7".
Yeah, he just became every year he got an inch or two taller. He put 10 pounds on, and all of a sudden, his senior year he became this 6'1.5", 6'2", 200-pound, 205 quarterback. Wasn't really a highly recruited kid. Everybody liked him, but he wasn't everybody's top choice. He was close with like Wisconsin. He was close with a couple big programs, but he was like that second, third guy on the list. And the first or second guy committed, so that's how he kind of even ended up at Pitt, so it's been neat to see the transition from him going there and just kind of being a really good athlete, and with a really strong arm, and he's just turned himself into an amazing quarterback. He has, physical attributes, right? He has the arm talent. He can anticipate throws. He throws with accuracy, which his accuracy's gotten better through his career. Again, he was a baseball kid, so really his accuracy dipped if it did just because he was a big overstrider. So really got to get more balance and get that short front stride down in more of a turn throw than a drive throw with his hips. Be more consistent with that. So I think you've seen his accuracy take off over the years. And he's 6'3" and he's 222 right now. He's going to run low 4.6s to high 4.58s. 4.5. He's going to be in that range in the 40. I mean, he's that good of an athlete. He's going to jump in the upper 30s vertical jump wise. So his film's going to be great. He's going to throw it really well. He's going to test really well. He's combine pro day kind of stuff. You're going to sit with him and fall in love with him in interviews. Again, he's been lucky that Mark Whipple's coming in, has been his offense coordinator. And again, they're true, pro style offense, 2 and 3 jet protection and everything those NFL offense run, they use those words with those concepts, offensively and defensively. So, a lot of times we'll talk and he's like, yeah, that's what we call it. As we're talking ball, and I'm like, well, that's good. Cause I've had some guys who were 3-year starters at big time programs that didn't know who the will linebacker was, cause they didn't have to.
Hey, what threw me for a loop? The first time I got this, we got a quarterback in one time that had never called a play in a huddle.
Yeah.
That always looked to the sidelines from high school on up. And then I had to start asking quarterbacks if you call plays in the huddle because he couldn't spit it out. Yes. And I might have happened 14 years into my career the first time that happened.
Right.
And I never even thought of a quarterback not knowing how to call a play in the huddle.
Yes. David, it's common. Like, how many times you watch games on Saturday where you watch the quarterback, right? He picks his leg up or he fake claps and they look to the sideline, right? And you just tell me to check and I just make a quick check at the line of scrimmage. The center makes all the calls. Yep. And then we just go, whereas he's not doing that. No. He's pointing the mic out and he's repointing the mic if he doesn't like the protection, if he feels like there's a weakness to a certain side. And, based on that, he knows where his hot is. They got hots built in. They have sight adjustments built in. So he'll be as NFL ready as any guy in this draft. I truly believe that. I've seen them all. I've spent time with them all at the Manning camp. He can throw with anybody. The moxie's there. The confidence is there. I've always said the position comes down to 3 things, right? The 3 Ps is what I always call them, right? So you have personnel, play caller, protection. It comes down to those 3 things really for us, right? If I have all 3 things, I'm going to be pretty successful as long as I do my job, right? God forbid I have great talent, right? 3, I'm going to be, you're going to see the 300-yard game. You're going to see a 150-yard game and 2 picks, and then obviously one out of 3 or 0 out of 3, it doesn't matter how good you are. You might show some flashes, but you're never going to be a consistent guy. And listen, they've led the country in drops the last 2 years, Pitt. Yeah. By far. Like the next team's like 30 drops behind them. Like it's not even close. And it always seems to be like a 3rd and 7 or a red zone, like right when you need it the most. And they're not doing that this year. They're catching a rock, which is, I think you're seeing that in him. He's comfortable kind of throwing the 1 through 5, and sometimes, people understand that, people are human, like if I don't trust 3 and 4 in my progression, I'm not throwing the ball.
Right.
1 and 2 better get open, and I'm going to hold the ball and stare at 1 and 2. And if they don't get open, then I'm going to take off later, so he generally, and I've had this conversation with him, he can go 1 through 4, 1 through 5, and he's good throwing a 4 or 5. He has confidence they're going to catch the ball and get upfield and make a play.
Mm-hmm. And Tony, the one cool thing about Kenny is I remember his first start when he was and he's a New Jersey guy. I think he's from Oakhurst, right?
Yep.
I think.
Yep, Ocean Town.
So I remember him in high school. Like I remember when he was coming out because I stay up to date with recruiting, especially in the state and all that type of stuff. And I remember when he was a freshman, I believe it was DiNucci was the starting quarterback, got hurt, right? And then and I remember that was the first thing that popped up. I was like, this dude's tough, man. Wicked tough dude.
Yes.
But I could not believe we got the Blesto list this year, and he's listed at like 6'3" and 2/8 or something like that. I'm like, when did this kid get 6'3"? Like, when did this happen, man? I couldn't believe it. I was like,
I'm telling you, it's like the one thing I'll say about him, he's kind of my example for a lot of the high school kids that are really good that I work with right now. Yep. He's always thought he was going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, even when he was 5'7", you know. But not only did he believe that, but he worked like it. And he's one of the hardest I've ever had, and I've had some really hard work years, you know, and obviously some good players, but he is off the charts. And I mean, you just look at that program; they love that kid. You know, Pat Narduzzi loves that kid. You know? So it's been neat to see the evolution. It's you know, it's kind of like I was telling all the Pitt people when he was a sophomore how good he was going to be, and they're like, I don't see what you're seeing, buddy. You know, we know you work with him and you love him, you grew up with him, and you know, you're attached to him, and now it's fine. Like. Now I get that, oh, my God, he's unbelievable. You're so right. Yeah. If you know him like I knew him, I'm not surprised one bit.
Right.
You know? So it's just if he could stay healthy and they just keep catching the damn ball around him, which they've done the first 2 weeks. And obviously, you know, they're going to play some tougher teams than they've played already. But if he just continues to do what he's supposed to do, then, there's no reason he can't be one of those, you know, QB 1 through 5. Hands down.
Love it. And I know the last guy I wanted to ask you about, and we really appreciate all the time, of course.
Sure.
Anthony Brown, who Oregon quarterback, fresh off 35-28 upset, quote unquote upset over Ohio State. It was a fantastic game, of course. I know he had a big time game, well over 200 yards passing. I know I think he also had 3 total touchdowns, kind of like Kenny did. He is a guy that's an interesting story. Remember the first time I watched him, he's a Boston College kid, obviously. You saw the flashes. You saw the big-time arm talent. You saw the athleticism. It's all there. Ends up at Oregon. Kind of has to, you know, wait for his turn last year behind Tyler Shuck for a little bit. Plays at the end of the season. Now he's a starting quarterback and off to a great start. And I know it's got to be fun for you, and I would love to comment on this, the resiliency of this kid to – fight for that job in Oregon, to wait his turn, but now to take advantage of that opportunity. I would think that this kid has to have that incredible character to him on top of the talent, obviously, that he has.
You know, I mean, you hit it right there. I mean, he's as tough mentally and physically as they come. You know, it comes across just like, you know, he's like this very easy-going, smooth kid. You know, he loves Willie Beeman. That's like his guy. You know,
Stephen Willie Beeman, love it.
That's his guy. So
that's why he wears 13. That's why he wears 13.
Exactly,
love it.
Exactly right.
Love
exactly it. Right. So you know, so he comes across that way. You know, and sometimes when you meet guys, you're just like, he's too easy going. There's no way he's that competitive of a kid. He's a dog. Like he's as tough as they come. You know, he was a really good high school player out here. He actually grew up, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes from Kenny. I mean, they're the same age. They've known each other since they were like in middle school. So it's kind of been neat to be with both of them as long as I've been with them and obviously see both of them. You know, as you guys both know, it's not a straight line of success here, you know. So it's, you know, one started a little bit higher than the other one, and then they switched, and now they're kind of, you know, so Anthony, I mean, you know, you look at his Boston College career, I mean, they never had a great passing offense. But if you look at what he did, I mean, you know, he's kind of always been mentioned with, you know, Matt Ryan and the stuff he's done even early on, you know. And if he didn't get hurt, who knows where he'd be. You know, just with the season-ending stuff, you know. And I remember it was yesterday. He came home, and it was right before he kind of committed to Oregon. He was kind of, what should I do? Where should I go? And everybody reached out to him because he's that talented. You know, he's 6'3", he's, you know, 220-something. He's, you know, 225, 226. He fluctuates around there. But, you know, he's got a big lower half. I mean, if you watch the game, he trucked the kid from Ohio State going up that sideline. You know, just – He's tough. He's physical. He's a good runner. He's a really good athlete. Again, he'll test well. You know, when we start talking about NFL stuff, he's got a rocket of an arm. Like he's got elite first, second round grade arm strength. It's that good. And again, I'm comparing him to. I mean, I've seen everybody throw it over the last 10 years in the NFL draft in person. I mean, really, Josh Allen's the only guy that I'm like, no one's ever going to throw a football like that again. Like that's how good Josh's arm was. You know, like in person. I mean, Anthony he could rip it, and it's a smooth stroke, and it's effortless. It's pretty to watch. You know, he's got really good feet. Again, you talk about play callers. He's playing for Joe Moorhead, who I think the world of. He's a great play caller. a little bit different, obviously, in Kenny, right? You're going to do some more RPO stuff and more college stuff, and obviously with the signs on the sideline, and so yeah, it's not the same kind of system, but he's going to make some NFL throws in that system. I think it's going to really highlight what he does well. He can run, he can throw, and he's smart, he's tough, he understands the game. He's been through it all. He's a very mature kid. And like I was saying before, before he committed to go to Oregon, I remember he came home when we threw one day, and we just sat in the turf for like an hour. Sun was down. It was kind of just like, what are we doing here? Where are we going? What are we thinking? And he was just in such a good place where I was probably panicking more than he was, and it was probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. I'm going to go to Oregon and I'm going to go do my thing. And again, like you said, he sat behind Tyler. Listen, Tyler's good. Tyler was the camp this year. Tyler was on my fields at the Manning camp. He's big and he could throw it. And he could spin it. Very impressive kid, and didn't flinch. Just hung in there and waited obviously to the end and played those last 2 or 3 games really well. And then obviously beat him out, and that's why Tyler left. And obviously he started off hot. And again, he's a guy that if he just stays healthy, kind of puts a season together. I wouldn't be surprised again if we're talking high mid rounds. Because he can do everything. He's like you were talking about before, Dave, like with the new NFL, and he kind of fits into what you want to do. He's kind of like, doesn't have to set his feet. He's got the arm angles, and he can kind of have his feet facing straight vertically and make throws to the outside parts of the field just by closing his shoulder and ripping it, where guys need to step and throw it or have their feet aligned to make straight throws. He doesn't have to do that.
Right.
That's rare. Like these days, that's rare because a lot of guys, if it's not perfect, they're pulling it and running.
Correct.
And that's what I see a lot in the new age quarterbacks. Not like the guy over my shoulder here, Johnny U. It's the if the first option's not there, they just might pull it down and run it, right. And that just doesn't survive in the NFL because that middle linebacker runs a 4.3 and he's 260 and he's going to truck you. So you know what I mean. So that's one thing that I've struggled with in my evaluations of the last 7 years or so is the size of the quarterbacks and how they don't always transfer up back to the NFL level because of their smaller slider frames, and the NFL guys, they're all rare athletes up there.
Yes. Well, I think, like we were saying before, Ryan, I think he's another kid where you got to realize when he transferred to Oregon, it was the COVID year.
Right.
So he didn't really spend any time with anybody. And all of a sudden it just kind of jumped into the season. So last year he was kind of learning on the run. And then obviously, he's 2 games into this year. So I think you're only going to see him get better as the season goes on, and his timing better and his decisions, all those things. He's probably around a little over 50% completion percentage wise. And that's, Joe's going to take some shots, obviously, in his offense. So you're not going to see 75% completion percentage a lot of times. But I think you're going to see the other stuff just become more consistent because he's just going to rep it more. He's going to get better at it.
Love it. Again, joined by Tony Rasiopi, quarterback coach, NFL Prep quarterback coach, working alongside Test Football Academy, which is a fantastic place. I would definitely recommend anybody who haven't been to Test. Always enjoy my time there, from the combine prep to just the people that work there. So, Tony, appreciate this, man. I know we kept you a little longer than anticipated, but this is a fantastic conversation, brother. I really do appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, guys, for having me, man. We can do this all day, right? So,
I could sit and talk ball with you all day. I've had to hold my tongue a few times because I know we're on a time limit.
Yes. All right, guys. Listen, I appreciate you having me. All right.
Yep, absolutely, Tony. Take care, man.
You too. Take care.
Thanks, Tony.
That literally was a conversation that I could have just kept having, but then I saw that we're over an hour already, so I had to cut it off for a second.
When we got up to 56 minutes, I'm like, stop yourself. Like, because I wanted to ask him, for me, again, footwork is always important. You and I taught a class last year, and every position I start with footwork. And quarterback footwork is terrible. And like a guy like Cam Newton, I wanted to ask him, and I did, but I'm going to say it now. I wanted to ask him, like a guy like Cam Newton, how would you fix him? Because to me, it's his footwork that hurts Cam the most because his arm strength's dissipating. But if he were to fix his balance and what Tony was talking about, Cam might have a reassurance of what he could do. So, it was fascinating, and I hope we have him back on again. And talk more ball with him because like you said, I could have talked all night with him about quarterback and play and all that stuff. And we didn't even get into schemes, which is, again, something I was going to talk to him about.
Yep.
But again, we have a time limit.
Well, we'll definitely get him on. He has a few guys in next year's NFL draft. So when the prep side comes to, because I could talk to him all day, because not only do we have the NFL draft side with him with the, his prep in that department, he's also a coach, and that's where I geek out about it a little bit. So appreciate Tony for hopping on. Appreciate Teddy Gallagher, linebacker out of Coastal Carolina, for popping on. We had some great guests in this episode. Kind of want to end us off here. We always do our final shots. I'm going to let David Turner go first tonight. Before I do, I just want to let you know that you should like, share, subscribe, and rate this podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts specifically, please give us a nice review. We would genuinely appreciate it. David Turner, what do you want to end this fantastic podcast with?
I just want to end this podcast with thank you to everybody who signs in, joins in, gives us our reviews, downloads us each week, because without you, it doesn't make sense for us to keep doing that. Even though Ryan and I enjoy the hell out of this show, without you guys supporting us, it makes no sense. But thank you all very much for doing that. And honestly, thank you to the guests tonight. They were fantastic. It was so much fun. Anytime I could spend an hour with Ryan and laughing on having fun with football, it's the highlight of my week. So
great conversation, to say the least. I would also like to thank David Turner, and I want to thank anybody out there. Make sure to check out MaverickSportsConsulting.com as well for all your needs. Appreciate you all. We'll be back same time, same place, Tuesday night, 8:30 Eastern time next week. Hope you all have a fantastic week of football.